everyone, Raelan here. I thought today I would share some of the really great things that I've come across over the last year or two for people who are facing chronic fatigue syndrome or ME/CFS. Because historically, as I'm sure anyone watching this is aware, there hasn't been a ton of support that's available that's all that helpful, that can really guide you in the right direction. But thankfully, I've noticed a shift, especially over the last couple of years, that more and more is becoming available. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware of all these things. So I thought it would be a really good thing to put some of those things out here today. I mean, when I think back to my grandmother, who we suspect had ME/CFS, she didn't have really anything available. And this was the 1950s. Her doctor couldn't find anything wrong and sent her away. He told her that you are a pony, not a horse, and you just need to learn to live with it. Now, I'm not sure what a person is supposed to do with that information. I don't even fully get what that means. This probably shows my ignorance about ponies, but are they just chronically fatigued and ill versions of horses? I really don't know. But I can only imagine how scary and overwhelming and terrifying and frustrating that must have been for her at a time when there was nothing else available, no internet, and she had 4 children and had to figure out a way to somehow get by. And then when we dial it back, not quite so far, I think of even my mother, who also got ME/CFS, although it was years before she would get that formal diagnosis. And this, when she became unwell, I believe was the 80s. So, it still was a very different time. There still was no internet, and although her doctor did not tell her she was a pony, it was almost worse because she was made to feel a lot like either this was all in her head or she was making it up. And I don't know why anyone would make this up. I really don't. That sentiment really frustrates me, and I'm sure, I want to say it comes from well-meaning people, but I really don't know how or where that comes from, because what is to be gained from making something up that causes you to quit your job, not be able to spend time with your family, quit all your social activities, never travel again, never reach your career ambitions, financially be in a bad place? So for her in the 80s, it really wasn't all that much better. And since she also didn't have the internet, all she could do when doctors couldn't help her was just go to the libraries and try and look for answers in the books that were there. And I'm sure you can imagine what a futile experience and exhausting for someone who's chronically ill that was. And then for me, 3rd generation person in my family to get, we believe the 3rd generation to get ME/CFS. This happened for me in 2008, and things were definitely better, but still not great. But the 20s, it seems, not that there's ever a good time to get this illness, but if you're going to be facing it, this is a much better time than me or the generations before me, because there is a lot more available. So I've got 3 options that I'm going to go through with you today for support that you can get right now while recovering from ME/CFS, and they range in price from free all the way up to a little bit more pricey. But there are options out there to suit pretty much any budget. So the first option, and I'm really quite excited about this one, is to hire a health recovery coach. Now, when I first started hearing about coaches a few years ago, I was a little bit skeptical. I didn't really have a lot of faith in it. I didn't know what it was all about. I thought, who are these people? What is their training? Are they just out to rip me off? Is this just like a money grab scam? I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense, and it didn't really seemed like something to me that was a super helpful option. However, as I see more and more of it, and the more I talk to some of these health coaches myself, I've come to appreciate the wealth of information and support that they can offer. They are trained, they are knowledgeable, and they have a ton of insight, at least every single one of the ones that I've talked to. And a lot of them have been where you are right now and gotten past it, so they really truly get it. And none of the health coaches that I know are getting rich off of this. This isn't a money-making scheme. It's people who have been through hell, who have figured out how to get past it, and then once they get their health back, they have this new passion for helping other people get past this as well. So they do the training, they get the information that they need so they can support other people and help other people get through what they had to go through alone. It's really quite an amazing thing, and I have so much gratitude for all of the health coaches out there. And if you're wondering where to go or where to find health recovery coaches, a good friend of mine, Liz, one of the most wonderful people I've ever met, has put together a list of great health coaches on her website, healwithliz.com. She's got 10 health coaches listed there, and of those 10 health coaches, I've actually interviewed 6 of them on my YouTube channel here, and I was really impressed with all of them and would highly recommend any of them. So I'll link that in the video description if you want to check it out. And should you choose to browse this list, and I strongly encourage it, you'll find that they have slightly different backgrounds and slightly different approaches. So you can look through it and see what resonates for you. Some of them focus more on nutrition. Some of them focus on brain training and things like that. Some of them have a more broad focus and are there just to generally support you on your recovery journey and help you find the direction that you want to go with this. So the cost for health coaches, as far as I can see, can vary quite a bit. Some of them you can get started with for as little as about $40 US, whereas others have quite in-depth programs that they've put together and courses, and these can cost quite a bit more. But there really is a spectrum in price range, and most of the ones that I've seen are really quite affordable. So I really think it's a really good option. Some do individual coaching, some do group coaching, and some do a combination of both. You can do video, you can do phone calls, whatever you're comfortable with. And these health coaches are located all over the world, and all of the ones that I've talked to take clients on from all over the world. All right, option 2. So the next thing that I would highly recommend for people who are facing ME/CFS right now or any sort of chronic illness recovery, it would be to think about, if you can financially manage it, signing up for an online counseling subscription program. Now, if you're not aware what that is, I'll get to that in a minute. I just want to start by saying that I think it's something that we don't appreciate enough. It's really alarming how many people I talk to who have gone through this and have had bouts of severe, serious depression throughout their journey. How many people have told me that they've had thoughts of taking their own life? How many people have told me that they have actually attempted to take their own life? This is such a marathon of suffering, and I think, and it's understandable, we put a lot of focus on our physical condition, but I strongly believe that the core of your recovery process needs to be, that foundation needs to be getting your mental health where it needs to be. And you need professionals in your life for that, if you can manage it, to help you along your way with this. And the reason I recommend the online counseling subscription is because it's something that I've recently started doing, and I wasn't aware that existed. It didn't exist when I first became unwell, but it would have been super helpful for me. But even now that I'm fully recovered, I still know that I need to invest in my mental health. So I still do get counseling and get these things to support me. So when I was sick, I did get counseling. I had to go in person, and it was tiring, it was costly, and I couldn't do it a lot, but it still really did help. But I really wish that there had been an easier option for me. And then when I started looking for counseling options again recently, I was looking here in San Francisco, and the average cost that I was finding per session was about $250 US per session. Now, I value my mental health, but that price really set me back. If I'm going once a week, we're looking at a good $1,000 US per month, which is quite insane, in my opinion. Valuable, and I'm sure these are amazing people, and if I were in a higher income bracket, I would be more than happy to pay that, but that was a tough one for me to fit in my budget. So I kept looking, and I found a really great online counseling subscription program called BetterHelp.com. And what it is you pay per month. And with this monthly subscription, you get quite a few different things. You get one weekly session, like live session online through video conferencing with a counselor of your choice. You get to choose your counselor. They have profiles. You can read about them, read about their experience, their training, their counseling approach. There are reviews on each of the counselors, so you can see what other people, current and past clients of theirs, are saying about working with them. So after you select your counselor, and you can change anytime, they make it very easy, you get 4 sessions per month online with that counselor. And then in addition to that, you can text and email them in between sessions if you need advice or support to carry you through between those sessions. And then it also includes a whole bunch of webinars every week on many different topics, teaching skills and strategies for mental health. All sorts of things like dealing with anxiety or depression or self-esteem or boundaries, saying no, really just a really impressive list of topics that you can take in. And if you sign up for it and then you find you can't make it for whatever reason, perhaps you're not feeling well or something else comes up, that's fine, because they email you a link to the recorded session so you can take it in whenever is convenient for you. So at betterhelp.com, and I'll link the website in the video description, it's still not cheap. I appreciate that this is not going to fit everybody's budget at every point in their life. It's currently, what I'm paying is $320 per month. So that works out to about $80 per session. So still not cheap, but $80 is a lot more feasible for me than $250 per session. And if you can't afford this right now, that is okay. Perhaps in the future, you will be able to. There were many points in my life and in my journey where I could not afford this either. If it's going to add more financial strain and stress to your situation, that's something that we have to weigh and factor in as well. And even me, valuing counseling as much as I do and being in a place where I can financially afford it, this time when I went in to get counseling, I was fired up, I'm ready, I'm like, yes, I'm investing in myself, I'm doing this. And then I started thinking about that $320 and all the things that I could do with it every month instead. Like lately, I'm a little bit obsessed with cryptocurrency. Anybody else? I could do a whole other video on that. Anyways, I could put it into saving for a trip, or I could buy some new clothes, or just many other things that seemed immediately more important or exciting than paying for counseling. But then I had to have a talk with myself and remind myself how important this is, and that if my head isn't in the right place, that none of that other stuff matters. Okay, option number 3. The third thing that I wanted to share today is that there are some great spaces online for group support that are free. So if you cannot afford one of the first 2 options, this is a really good place to get support, connect with people who get it, and get guidance, and just be able to talk to people who have been where you are and will support you, and people who are optimistic and people who are also focused on recovery, and you can be there for each other as you work your way through this. And although I'm sure there are many wonderful options out there, I know there are also some not so wonderful options, because understandably, when you're dealing with a bunch of people who are chronically ill, we're dealing with a bunch of people who are not in a good place. They're going through some of the worst times of their life. They're probably depressed, frustrated, angry, and depending on how the groups are run, that can really come out in the interactions. So in my experience, and what other people tell me, is that you have to be very careful in choosing your online space, because if it's a space where people are just there to complain, to see who's having the worst day, to gaslight one another and minimize other people's experiences, this is not going to be helpful, obviously, at all. So the only online group that I can personally recommend is the one that I facilitate, because I work very hard to keep it an optimistic and recovery focused space. So the Facebook group that I facilitate is called CFS Recovery, Support, and Inspiration, and I'll link it in the video description. If you're not already a part of it and you want to check it out, you can find it there. And if you're watching this video, you're already clearly on the right track. You're doing the things that you need to do. You're getting support, you're seeking answers, you're looking for information. And I think that is the key to getting out of this and to not doing it alone. There's no need to be a martyr and suffer all by yourself and struggle through this. So I hope that after watching this, you have some more ideas and some more motivation around getting mental health support, some more appreciation for the fact that we all need it, sick or healthy, and that something in this video has been helpful and will help you to find a person in your life to work with you to get past this. And if you have ideas or other sources of support, or other health coaches or counseling services or whatever that you can recommend, it would be really great if you could leave them in the video description so we can continue to pool all these resources for people watching and they can see what's out there. So hang in there. Good for you for working so hard. I know sometimes it can feel like whatever you're facing, it's never going to change, or you're never going to find your answers, or you're never going to get past it. But the only constant in life is change. And so many people do get past this, and I really believe that you will too. And I can say this because people are getting past this illness from all degrees of severity and are coming out the other side and thriving and doing great. So hang in there, sending love and support to you. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. And they range in price from really... So I've got 3 options that I'm going to go through with you today for... So I've got 3 options that I'm going to go with you... So I've got 3 options that I'm going to go through with you today, but there's options out there, but there are options out there to suit just about every budget. But there are options out there to suit pretty much any budget. So the cost for health coaches can vary quite a bit. You can get started with the ones on this list. I believe some of them for as little as about $40 US. So the cost for health coaches, as far as I can tell, can vary quite a bit. Now on this list on Liz's website, healwithliz.com, now the cost for health coaches can vary quite a bit. From what I've seen, you can get started for as little as about $40 US. But even nope. So a very little. So a very